Welcome to Prudent Media's Gazali program. Today we have with us a man who's done it all. An art historian, an award-winning historian and a writer, a critic. He is also a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature, the Royal Geographical Society and the Royal Asiatic Society, the founder and director, co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival, Mr. William Dalrymple.
Afternoon.
Thank you very, very much for being with us.
Thank you for allowing me to be prudent.
And very warm welcome to Goa.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know, at the beginning, I'd like to ask you a question. How do you manage?
In what sense?
You've got so many awards. Every book that you've written has won you accolades, awards, prizes. You probably have to have a museum of your own to house these in.
I'm lucky in that I have only one or two talents. I have friends that can, be ballet dancers or astronomers or could have done opera singing. I can only do one thing, which is to write, maybe to speak too. So I focused my attention on one thing, which is writing books, and I've done it since I left university. So I'm nearly 50, I'm 48, but in that time I produced 8 books. One book every 3 or 4 years.
And a lot of articles that you have contributed as well.
Well, my official status here, as far as the government of India is concerned, is the New Statesman correspondent. That's meant to be my job. That's what my visa comes from. So yes, I'm a journalist as well as a writer.
And you started this journey quite young, as you said. I think you were around 22 when you started the journey. And
yes, I wrote this book called In Xanadu when
yes.
I suppose I wrote it when I was 21. It was published when I was 22, this one, yeah. Which is an old book now, by a man I can barely remember. I mean, that was me as a student, and it's a very different world.
And what got you into this? I think you had to travel quite a bit.
So In Xanadu is the story of following the route of Marco Polo from Jerusalem to Inner Mongolia. A journey of 16,000 miles, which I did by hitchhiking and on top of buses and all that kind of stuff. And it was a dream come true. I mean, it's the most exciting bit of travel I've ever done before or since. To be 21, I got a prize from my college at Cambridge to do the trip. And just to be let loose in Asia at that age is a great, huge pleasure.
And how long did it take you?
3.5 months.
3.5 months.
Right across through Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, across the width of China, up into Mongolia. Wonderful.
And how did you manage your stay and all? Did you stay at hotels or did you stay with people?
Yeah, I mean, quite often people take you in. I mean, countries which today are renowned for violence were at that point renowned for hospitality. So I remember in Syria, we didn't spend a single night in a hotel. We were taken in by people night after night. Today it's very sad. Yeah, and they're very hospitable and lovely people.
And you came into India, I think, first in 1989, am I right?
No, I came in, I know the date exactly because it's nearly the 30th anniversary. 26th of January 1984. I was 18 years old. I just finished school. It was before I went to college. And it was a trip that changed my life. I mean, I'm still here 30 years later and still obsessing about the same sort of things. So.
But what was the pull? What did you find?
I wasn't pulled, to be honest. I came here by accident, really. I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I wanted to dig in Iraq. And I'd arranged it for years in advance that I was going to, before college, go to dig in a Syrian site in Iraq. And there was some diplomatic fight between Britain and Iraq at this point, before the first Gulf War, but Saddam Hussein wanted to get rid of the British, so the embassy diplomatic relations were shut down, the dig was closed. So I found myself without anything to do, and I went off with a friend who was coming to India. And that pure bit of chance totally changed my life. I'm still here now.
And then you went back, and you came to India a few years later.
So I went to college for 3 years, and then worked for 1 year in London, and in 1989 came back as a correspondent. And I've been here ever since, really. I mean, I keep a foot in Britain. We have a house in London, and we rent it out during the winter, but take it back for a couple of months in the summer, June, July. So my kids have been brought up between two worlds and two countries. And I think it's good. I think it's important not to lose touch with your roots. Many people, half the population of India has emigrated at some point.
I think we've got to take
but I think it's important to keep in touch with where you're from and to tell your children where they're from, so they have some idea who they are. You can make your choices in life, but I think it's important to remember.
I think that's a very good message that we should carry to all our viewers. Yes. And I think India is especially good to you because I think you met your lady love here too.
Not true. No, I met her through Indians, but in London. It was an Indian family who introduced us, but she was, she was at Oxford, I was at Cambridge. We were both interested in India, and India's been good to me in many ways. I mean, one of the strange things that's happened is that originally I saw myself as writing about India or Asia for a Western audience, but these days I sell more copies of my books in India.
In India, yes, yes, indeed. And how have your children adapted to the Indian?
They've been brought up between the two countries. They all went to the British school in Delhi until the age of 13. Then at 13 we sent them back to boarding school in England on the same principle. That I thought we didn't want them to be little white Indian kids speaking only Hindi and not good English, or we wanted them to be able to work in either culture.
So they are now at the in boarding in...
So my two boys are at boarding school in London, and my girl is at art school in Edinburgh now. So, I mean, I spent my life running away from Scotland and running away from Edinburgh. The first thing my eldest child does is go straight back.
That's interesting. You know, another thing I noticed that I think the first books that you'd written, the first 4 or 5, or I think 4 books that you'd written, largely travel books. You traveled a lot and you wrote about your travels, and though in a very inimitable style. But then subsequently you went more into history, was there?
That was partly literary choice, but it was also partly the fact that I had kids. And when you're in your 20s or early 30s and you're unmarried, you can roam the world. When suddenly you have lots of little babies at home needing looking after, you can travel, but you become increasingly unpopular with your wife if you did.
That's true, that's true. But here too, with the history subjects, you need to do that much of research and all. Does that
yes,
take you
less than the travel book would take there. I mean, if you're writing a travel book, you have to spend months away.
So how do you manage your research then? Do you?
It depends what the book is. But I mean, my most recent book was Return of a King, about the first Afghan war. Most of the records for that are in Delhi, in the National Archives of India. So I could do that on a daily basis, commuting. My main base is now a farm in Mehroli outside Delhi. But I did trips to, there's a lot of stuff also in Kabul, in Kandahar, in Herat, in Ghazni, all over Afghanistan. There's some very good stuff in Lahore, in the Punjab archives, in Anakli's tomb in Lahore. So anyone who knows their Mughal-e-Azam will know about Anakli's tomb. But today it's an archive. And they have very rich records from that period.
And they're happy to share it with you, I'm sure.
Yes, I mean, I'm lucky in that I walked the difficult line between the divorced couple of India and Pakistan. India is my base and it's my first love, but I have many friends in Pakistan and I've written a lot about Pakistan, and I always feel very sad for Pakistan because in so many ways it's such a mess today, politically and socially.
And I think during one of your trips you chased a bullet. Where was that?
That's happened a few times. Happened a few times.
Not in India, I'm sure.
It's happened in India, yes. I've been shot at in Kashmir by your CRPF Jawans are very trigger happy. And I've been in a crowd of unarmed demonstrators when the CRPF have opened fire. I haven't been hurt, but you can hear the whistles flying, the bullets whistling past. But particularly, most recently, it was in Kandahar, where I had a sniper bullet in the back of my car. Luckily, it was an armored car, so the hole is there on the outer glass, but the inner glass saved me. It was a perfect shot to the back of the head, so I would have been, but for the armored glass, I wouldn't be here talking with you now.
Wow, that was something.
Yes, not something I would like to repeat. Yeah. Nice, I mean, in retrospect, a nice story to tell, but at the time, very frightening.
It must have been, it must have been. And were you alone at that time, or was
I had a fixer, I had a local Afghan fixer. and a driver.
Okay, but Olivia and the children weren't with you at that time.
They have come. Subsequently, President Karzai read Return of a King and liked it. And so we all got summoned to the palace, a rather different event. And so this March, my son, youngest son, Adam, and Olivia both came with me to Kabul to go and meet Karzai.
And you went there now after how long?
I've been going every year, really, and I do a lot of journalism from Afghanistan.
How do you find the place?
Well, it's funny, Afghanistan, because it varies very much. I mean, some places are absolutely fine. Kabul, in general, is pretty good. You have to be very unlucky to run into trouble in Kabul. But 5 miles outside, you take your life into your hands if you're out in the country.
But do you anticipate that things will improve in the years to come?
No, I think there's a lot of fighting ahead once the Americans withdraw. It may not be a full-scale civil war, but the Taliban insurgency will grow. There's no question.
It's sad to see that, yeah. And how about Kashmir? How did you find Kashmir? Beautiful place.
Kashmir is lovely, and the Kashmiris are lovely.
But very warm.
But it's again, a very sad situation. I mean, I think, in retrospect, they were promised a plebiscite in 1947. Had that plebiscite happened, I think we wouldn't have the trouble we have now. That said, it's now part of India, and I think some political solution has to be found that gives them some measure of autonomy. Because at the moment, you've got 1 million men under arms in Kashmir. It's a huge waste of Indian money that could be going to hospitals and schools. And
that's when we're losing so many lives.
Sure, yeah, and I'm sure there is some solution short of independence or that would be acceptable to everyone. So I think we need a little bit more flexibility in negotiations than has been shown, and a less heavy. Kashmiris have been made to feel under occupation. Because many of the Jawans who go up, they're from Bihar. They regard the Kashmiris almost as Pakistani enemy. And there's a high degree of alienation of ordinary, innocent Kashmiris from the security forces. So some political solution that gives them more autonomy, that quietens the whole thing down, allows India to spend money more usefully on schools, hospitals, roads, children's vaccinations, that kind of stuff,
Did you get any inspirations from there, from Kashmir, to write on?
I read a lot about Kashmir.
No, I mean for your work, any?
Well, Kashmir figures in many of my books. Return of a King has a whole Kashmir section. Kashmir, there's this great mantra today, Kashmir is an integral part of India, but Kashmir was part of Afghanistan in the 19th century. When Shah Shuja was ruling, the hero of my book, Return of a King, when he was first negotiating with the British in 1809, Kashmir was part of the Afghan Durrani Empire. So, it's been in different things at different times.
And now, this isn't your first trip to Goa for sure.
No, I come 2-3 times a year. I love it here.
And planning to make this your permanent home by any chance?
I think it's more difficult now. I mean, obviously many Westerners are settled here, but you've tightened up your rules to stop us all buying up your land. So I may have left it too late. I don't know. But I would love to. I would truly love to have a house in Goa. I'd love that.
I think you're working on a book. I read somewhere on the influence of Christianity or the.
I've read that too. It's not true. It's one of those things that gets into the press and then it's repeated. No, I said to some journalist about 10 years ago I was interested at some point in writing a book on the St. Thomas legend. And,
that's why.
It keeps returning. I'm certainly not working on it at the moment, but it's a subject that interests me.